Hello everybody, welcome back. We're in the studio today in my shed for part 2 of our little conversation about how to be more productive. This applies just as much to songwriters, producers, anybody else, as much as film composers like me. So last time when I was driving around and chatting to you about productivity, I was talking about things you can do in advance of your particular little project to make it go more smoothly and more productively. Today, I'm talking about things you can do right here and now when you're working
to make it go quicker.
The number one thing for me, and of course these are only personal things, you might say, this is rubbish. I will push that thumbs down. But these are things which work for me and hopefully they might work for you. Number one thing for me is never to get too bogged down in the detail of orchestration and production before I've really got a solid idea of what my piece of music is all about. For example, I use a lot of ensemble patches like this old Sony Vox Espressiva strings. So I'm just going to, I just smith things out. Rubbish. Now, if I'd spent, I thought, okay, I quite like that, and then I'd gone through and I'd done the violin line and the cello line and I'd written all right. You've got to just give yourself time to, particularly if you're working to picture, sometimes I just turn the click off. Horror. Yes, absolutely, and just kind of just. No, that's too sloshy, start again. So rather than spending hours and hours and hours getting tied up with the detail, you get the broad brushstrokes of your chord progression or your theme or whatever, right? And that means using ensemble patches. I use Espressiva strings quite a lot. I use, let's just tap in ENS for ensembles. I use quite a lot of the Spitfire ensemble patches from Chamber in particular. It's. Would it sound better if I was doing it with violins, yes, but we haven't got time to do that right now. So you get together some of these patches which work really well. You need a pizzicato patch, a short string patch. You need a long string patch. Brass less so actually, because they are very, very distinctive. A good one though is the Albion woodwind. Actually, particularly the original one. Laughably awful. Okay. Very useful, dropping it in there. Now, if you've got a big template like me, and those of you can see there's 1,240 tracks in the template right now. I've had a bit of housekeeping trying to get rid of some stuff. What you can do is create a little sort of subgroup of tracks which are just ensemble tracks, so that you're not going whizzing up and down this enormous lot. So, and you can do that in Cubase. You can do it by turning on and off visibility and saving off as a visibility configuration. So then it just gets rid of all the other tracks. You just see the essential ones, basic strings, woodwind, brass and percussion, whatever, so that you're not whizzing around trying to look for tracks all the time. There are other ways of doing it. In DP and Logic, you can create a little folder which has got MIDI tracks in it, which are duplicates of other tracks, but it doesn't matter because you're just putting just those MIDI tracks in a folder, which is your sketching folder. And so sketching is a number one way to save yourself time, because you don't waste hours and hours and hours writing a piece of music, which is frankly pants. Okay, so a really good habit to get into is resisting the temptation to get dug into the detail before you really need to. The other thing which I find incredibly useful is Key shortcuts. All software programs have them. If you want to know what's available, and this, I really would advise you to do this, find the key shortcut list, because there are hundreds of things you can do in Cubase, Logic, DP, Pro Tools, any of these others, and just have a really good look at the kind of things which, for example, enter left location, Shift L, things which you do all the time. The stuff which you do all the time. You think, right. Nudge, I find nudge really useful as well. So I've got that set up on special keys. Now, obviously, there's an awful lot of these. You don't need to learn them all. And what I tend to do is the most useful ones. Actually, let me just show you something. I'll just play something and so you can see how the best example of how this works. I've had my click back on. Okay, so that was a bit rubbish. Never mind. Then we'll play in some French horn or something. Quick line on the top. Let's find my French horn 6. That's the one I like. The point is, the only reason I'm doing this, is, for example, one of the things which I find really useful in a big template. Where is that other piece? I've got on F11 here. You can see F11. If I hit that, it just shows me the active tracks between locators. This is a Cubase thing, but it's not. If I know your Logic and you say, he's going on his Cubase thing again. No. But the point is, if you go through that list of key commands, you go down here, you will find a whole load of stuff. There you go. You see, agent, show channels, tracks, data between locators. That's the one I find really useful. So I've got it set up on F11. So you don't need a Ponzi Raven touchscreen like I have in the big studio. Actually, I prefer, in many respects, just having my favorite things programmed onto the F keys on the top of my keyboard. It's really easy. So if I want to render in place, or for example, if I hit P, that will set the locator to that particular thing. If I hit S, that will solo that track. If I hit F18, what it'll do is it'll render it out, or it'll export it as audio. And so by just hitting 3 keys, I can get the thing. I can bounce things out and all the rest of it. I've got another button for render in place. I've got another one for nudge left, nudge right, set the locator for locator. If you just get your top dozen functions set up like that, it will save you forever. Really, it will save you forever. Look, and there it is, all done. Doesn't make the music any better, unfortunately. And then F12 reveals a whole lot. So customize the keys, because I want you, firstly, actually, to admire the fact that this keyboard is nothing short of a public health emergency. Would you say? So I apologize. I mean, even looking at this keyboard is probably going to give you some ghastly and incurable illness, for which I apologize from the bottom of my heart. Sort of. Okay. Right. So those 2 things will save you a great deal of time. Another one, which is a real good one, is not constantly reinventing the wheel and doing the same thing over and over again, but using custom libraries. So if, for example, there's a certain sound which you're constantly using, def sounds. So here's a whole load of stuff which I use quite a lot of. I mean, some of it's really simple things like reverses and things. Okay, that was exceptionally loud, for which I apologize. Here you go, things like... That's from Gravity. Then there's things like, in a particular project, I use lots of these. I don't need to do it every single time. Like pitch dives. All this kind of stuff. All these sort of little things which I do time after time, I bounce out as audio and roll them in. I mean, like timp rolls even, actually. So work out what you're likely to do. And also, the nice thing about bouncing in things like timp rolls is you can line them up more accurately. So you go, woo, ka-ching, there we go. So that was also a bit loud. But so using custom libraries of sounds, you don't need to create the same sound over and over again. Work out what sounds you're going to be repeating and put them in a little custom library, and it's all going to be completely super. Next one. Using the best input tool for the job. You don't have to play everything in it. As you've seen, as I've demonstrated on innumerable occasions. We're playing in G, we're having a very, very good time. That was the worst tune ever. Nonetheless, it makes a point. When it comes to being a keyboard player, I'm probably fairly B-. And so trying to play in stuff like, even a stupid little spit-staccato thing can take ages to sort it out. There is a better way, and pretty much all the DAWs will give you this, and it's using step input, because it allows you to think what you're doing. So you set, what am I going to do? I'm going to have eighths. So I set the quantized value to eighths, and now the step input will let me go. Then you can do. Okay, will that sound any good? It'll sound a lot better than if I'd have played it. I'll tell you that for free. Here you go. Okay, so and if you want to, am I going to waste time doing this? I'm going to waste time doing this. I'm sorry. I just wanted to speed it up a lot, because actually. Then using playing in things half speed and then speeding them up is not a bad thing to do either. Where's double tempo? There it is. Boing. So now we'll hear what it sounds like at double speed, 16th notes. And it goes. Now, I could have been there all day trying to do that, frankly. Okay, another one. Using, you don't just have to use the drum editor for drums, for ordinary kit drum. You can, okay, so if you just play a few notes in, and now we go in there and we use the drum editor. Not all programs have a drum editor. A lot of them do. So again, you draw it in. Get rid of some of these, and then you can draw your and then you can, if you want to put some funky syncopation in there, etc. You see how that would go. So you can actually use it for all kinds of percussion, and it can be really useful. This is all low percussion, obviously, but that's useful. And so actually, I'm going to get again slightly carried away. I quite like the. Okay, so we're going to do a little rough on third. So if you just, that's 30-second notes, and then you just draw the, so you go rum, etc. So that is a lot quicker than programming it in most other ways. So use the right input tool for the job. Oh, hang on. Aha! Somebody sent me a cat video. Isn't that lovely? Hang on. maybe I should go... Distractions! You know that distractions are a bad thing, don't you? But how often do we... Oh, there's a spotted redshank down in Peckham Harbour. Oh, my lord. Don't do it. I mean, you know this is a real... You know, you tell your kids that, and then you spend your time, when you're supposed to be writing music, looking at fact. So, obviously, that's a really, really, really bad idea. Another one, this is a difficult one. Listen to the small voice which is telling you that what you're doing is not very good. There is a difference between having a lack of confidence where you think everything you do is not very good, and the little voice which says, are those bagpipes really the best idea? There's a difference between having a lack of confidence, and everybody needs confidence in order to be able to write music. Obviously, that's, you know, you've got to have confidence in your creative ability. But sometimes you're going careering down a blind alley, and there's this little voice going,
this is a terrible idea. You know it's a terrible idea. Whoever heard of writing action music using bagpipes?
No, really. Bagpipes is the best sound here. Bagpipes is absolutely right for this action sequence.
You're a complete idiot. Listen to me. You know that you're writing rubbish music.
No, I'm absolutely confident. Look.
Stop wasting time.
I've just got to finish it. I'll just spend another 4 hours finishing this bagpipe arrangement with the sort of metal percussion and the kalimbas, and it's just going to be fantastic.
Stop writing this music and start writing something decent for a change.
Listen to the small voice, because the small voice is often right. And if you listen to the small voice, it does save you spending a whole day writing something which you know in your heart of hearts is not right for the project. So you need to listen carefully when the small voice makes itself apparent, and, you know, tell the difference between lack of confidence and knowing that there's a niggling sensation that you're right. But it's one which will stop you wasting very significant amounts of time. Another one, if you have a broken thing, if you try and load some instrument and it doesn't work, do not immediately spend the rest of the day trying to fix it. Find an alternative. I mean, it's so irritating. You load it up and whatever, Omnisphere doesn't work. And you go, oh no! And so then you have to Google all kinds of things, and you find you have to change the file ownership permissions on the folder and apply it to all the... Before you know it, half a day's gone, and actually, just choose a different sound. Fix that kind of thing when you've got time, not in the middle of... Because also, what's happening, and it's the same with the distractions thing, it takes you out of the zone. And once you're out of the zone, you are in trouble, because it's then going to take you another half an hour to get back into the zone. So if you hit a technical snag, like a single instrument or something which doesn't write, or a plugin which isn't working, just be calm, be zen, and move through it and get into a new place where it's going to work for you better. Buy an SSD. I mean, I know I tell you not to upgrade your kit when you're working, but actually, if you're not using an SSD solid state drive will speed everything up. If you're running your project off enough an SSD, the whole thing runs more quickly, it's more responsive. When you're copying files off, it doesn't take so long. Give yourself a bit of headroom, get a nice, as large a one as you can afford, because you just will never regret it. And if you add up all the seconds, when you're sitting working and you hit play, and then it starts, if you add up all those seconds, you could have gone out, played a round of golf, had dinner with your friends. It becomes a lot of time. And this is another one, actually. When you're setting your count off, when you're starting, always go back to bar one and then wait 10 bars until you play your little thing, get it wrong and go back again. Set the count off as close as possible to where you're actually playing, so that, so rather than go, oh, that wasn't quite right. If your count off is set even 2 bars earlier, that's 4 seconds every time for every take. Add up all those 4 seconds, and then what do you get? Another whatever you like doing with your time. But little things can make a huge difference if they are aggregated over the course of a project. If it's just not working, change track. If you're just not feeling it, try and do a different piece or a different cue which doesn't require quite so much fresh originality and inspiration, because it'll be better off, because you're not wasting time, you're doing something else. I've definitely found when I'm trying to come up with a fresh original idea, if it doesn't happen in the first couple of hours of the morning, it's not likely, for me personally, it's not likely to happen. So I will work on it until sort of like 10 o'clock in the morning or something, and then move on and do something else, and then come back to it the next day if I'm able to. And the final thing is, if everything is really not working and you're tired, everything you're doing is not kind of working out, at that point, the most productive thing you can do is relax. Go to sleep. Go and do something you enjoy. And come back to it later. It's not a waste of time. It's not a distraction. It's just storing up your energy and getting you ready to go out there and fight the good fight and write great music and do exciting things and all that kind of stuff, okay? So those are my top tips for becoming more productive when you're working and when you're not. So look, you can download these tips. There's a little sort of worksheet thing for you which you can stick on the studio wall to remind you not to do some of the bad stuff and to do some of the good stuff. Yeah. And a little checklist so you can go through and find out which ones of those you do regularly and all that. Anyway, I hope you find this useful, and we'll be back with more hopefully helpful stuff very shortly. But in the meantime, come and see us at Think Space Education. Drop into our the Facebook page, which you may be on right now, who knows, and sign up for some of our free stuff, or come and join us and we'll train you to be an even better composer than you are already. Okay, thanks very much for watching. See you soon.